Resilience? What does that mean? How to really bounce back. And we need to bounce back and be stronger than ever before. My thoughts on becoming more resilient.
Dr. Gregory Jantz is a best-selling author of over 45 books and the founder of the Center A Place of Hope, voted a top 10 center for depression treatment in the U.S. As the pioneer of whole person care, Dr. Jantz is known as the messenger of hope. Now the nation's expert on anxiety, depression, substance abuse, relationships, trauma, and PTSD, here is Dr. Gregory Jantz.
Hi, it's Dr. Greg Jantz. It's hope and possibilities, resilience. Now that's an interesting word. To be resilient might bring up a lot of different thoughts or ideas. And through the last 3 years, probably to develop resilience for what we've come through and for what's ahead could be a smart, emotional, psychological, spiritual strategy. I wanted to share some thoughts that I've put together around resilience, something that I've personally loved the topic, but personally have been working on. Now, if I'm going to be resilient, it probably does mean that something happened. Something that could have been traumatic. Something happened that I feel in some way changed by. And when I feel changed by something, I've felt changed in a negative way, and that I cannot get my old self back up to feeling like I did before. Okay, here's some thoughts. Number one, the desire to be okay after something traumatic. So a pandemic, COVID, loss of job, change of financial status, loss of relationships, death, grief, those would all fit under the heading of trauma. If I've been traumatized, and maybe it's been multiple traumas, I want to feel normal again. I just want to, I'm not thinking about getting way up there where I've never been before. I just want to be normal again, to feel normal, or just to feel good again. Anxiety is the number one diagnosis in our country right now, followed by depression, followed by addiction. We have these issues, and the third one is addiction, because we're tired of the anxiety, we're tired of the depression, we want to do something about it. Sometimes that addiction comes through alcohol, misuse or of prescription drugs, or illegal drugs, or just drugs. Finding a way to mood modulate, to feel different. Okay, if I'm resilient, number 3 on my list is to have emotional bounce back. I got to have this emotional bounce back. If I'm resilient, yeah, you hit me, you got me. And maybe multiple times, right? Bad stuff happened. Okay, I take a deep breath. A little bit of time passes. And I'm resetting internally. I'm resetting my emotions. I am really coming to a place where I go, emotionally, I'm bounced back. I realize I'm feeling okay despite what's happened to me or happened around me. To be resilient, number 4, is to be redirected to feeling strong again. To be redirected to feeling strong again. My goodness. Look at it this way. A resilience continuum. There's a beginning and there's an end, and something's happened. And there's an event, multiple events. Could be that loss, could be a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, but it's been traumatic. And at this end of it, I'm in some depression, maybe some anxiety, maybe some fear. And I'm feeling the effects of this traumatic event or multiple traumatic events. Time goes along, and I realize I'm not functioning normally. I'm not pulling out of this. I was hit hard emotionally. My faith was shattered or shaken. And here I am. I'm just not functioning normally. And I'm realizing that this had a significant impact. So think in terms of emotional, whole person impact. What does that look like? Well, it may have shattered my faith. It may have caused me to re-experience old symptoms of depression, re-triggered anxiety. I may have realized that there's some physical issues going on, from headaches to gut aches. There's some things happening. They're traumatic. And now, as time is going along on my continuum, I'm still working through this recovery. Okay? So as time goes along, my recovery should be going up. It's not vertically up. It's just a good gradual up, my recovery, as time goes along. If not, it's doing this, and my depression and my anxiety is dipping lower and lower. So watch for what happens over the course of 3 to 6 months. Is it going this way, or is my recovery going this way, and I'm being strengthened emotionally? We'll talk about how to do that. But there is really some keys for emotional well-being. We need to understand, and I made a note here, we've got to look at this, that events that cause us to feel less than resilient, traumatic events, will affect our immunity. Have you noticed that sometimes suddenly you're sick and it's almost predictable? You've been around somebody, you've been in an intense situation, and sickness is just right around the corner. Okay, at times predictable. We also know that there's a brain rebalancing. The chemical dopamine, the pleasure chemical serotonin, has a lot to do with mood as well as sleep and rhythms in the brain. Some of these are altered by traumatic events, and there is a restabilization for the brain. If we're already somewhat fragile, and it's like we're just not getting that equilibrium back, it's like my brain does not come back, and you can feel that. You feel like something's going on, I can't get it back, it's not back. So there is a brain rebalance. By the way, sidebar, hyperbaric oxygen chambers are growing in popularity. Many times in sports, athletic athletes use these to improve performance, wound healing, etc. What we know, and I've seen actually scans of people's SPEC scans from Dr. Amen, and I've seen the effects of over time the use of this hyperbaric oxygen chambers, and it takes some time, but it was remarkable to see. You can visually see it. I'm not a brain scientist, I can just visually see, wow, radical improvement, rebalancing the brain. All right, there's a sense after something has happened that's been traumatic that I'm in some way defective, that I just sense that something is broke. I talked about the brain, but it's just that sense that something seems broke. I can't get it back. And here's some things you may be feeling. Unlovable, unlikable, undesirable, and you may feel unrepairable. Unlovable, unlikable, undesirable, and unrepairable. It's like I'm broke. Something's not right with me, and I can't get the best of me back. We also know that if I work this process of healing and my resilient, I can become more emotionally resilient. I can increase my emotional intelligence, and I can also increase my capacity to handle discomfort. Yes, I can grow stronger, not weaker, not going down, but strengthening. I'm going up, and my capacity for being strengthened and being able to handle even more is really, this capacity can be strengthened. Now, if it's not, then I'm probably going the other direction. I can learn now how to manage uncomfortable emotions even more. I can maintain my balance. I can learn to be proactive. There's an anticipatory, proactive stance I can begin to take. I can see that there could be something traumatic coming around the corner. I'm kind of preparing for it emotionally. So I'm being proactive, knowing, no, this is not going to devastate me. Knowing I am going to walk through this. I have the ability to handle, and manage uncomfortable emotions and situations like never before. And that's how you're looking at it now. All right. I call it emotional elasticity. That's right. It's not that like a rubber band, I'm not swinging right back, but there's an emotional elasticity that I come back together. I come back as I need to. And that's strengthening. I'm coming back. So I'm going to rebuild my self-care. Here's a few thoughts. Got to keep the exercise up. My goodness, yes. I've got to really look at my nutrition. What is going in my mouth? If I've been traumatized, I'm not feeling resilient. I'm feeling unlikable, unlovable, unrepairable. I may be taking in way too much sugar and even not enough of my water. Keep that in mind. It's so important. I need to focus and refocus on my purpose. I've got a wonderful little book. It's a mini book. It's coming out here soon, just months away from this podcast, on finding my purpose in my life. This is what, if I'm resilient, I have a strong sense of purpose, and I need to realign with that purpose. Humor. Humor is really important in developing this emotional elasticity, being able to laugh. Boy, there's just not been enough of healthy humor. I don't mean sarcasm or unhealthy humor. I mean just laughing and laughing with one another. The other one I put a star by is connection. Gotta have that connection. And by that I mean relationships. My other little mini book, I gotta grab it here. It is right here. The Power of Connection. The Power of Connection. Maximize my health and happiness with my close relationships. If I'm going to be resilient, I have close relationships, and I am maximizing the health of those relationships. All right. I don't avoid problems. I do not avoid problems. I'm on a plan to address whatever I need to address in my life, and I'm going to be more courageous. These are some of the traits I'm going to be working on. Spiritual self-care. I have a verse here that's just personal to me. Joshua 1:9, which really talks about don't be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord God, your God, is with you wherever you go. Okay. Don't be afraid. Okay, that's the fear. Or discouraged. Okay, discouragement is that unlovableness. It's that undesirableness. It's that unlikableness. It's that something's defective. No, I will not be discouraged. I'm going to walk through this. 5 key steps for us to wrap up some sharing here today. Number 1 is I have to restore sleep. I know, that's a big one. Restorative rest and sleep. The healing power emotionally of our sleep. You will not become resilient if you're tired, distracted, and not receiving restorative sleep. Number 2, you've got to rebuild that self-care. I went through some of those. from exercise to nutrition to spiritual mentorship. We've got to rebuild that. Number 3, renew with a spiritual mentor. Is there somebody in your life that can help be supportive in a spiritual growth sense? Look at that. What are those influences that can really help strengthen me? Number 4, I have to rebuild with forgiveness. Forgiveness means self-forgiveness. Forgiveness probably means looking at what created the trauma or who. I've got to be set free from that with the practice of forgiveness. If I'm not, I'm going to have more anxiety, more depression, more prone towards addiction. My immune system, I'm going to have a heavy burden of resentment and bitterness. So I've got to look at forgiveness in order to become a resilient person with emotional elasticity. So, all right. And then finally, my final thought is number 5, find where you can serve others. Where can I, on a regular basis, usually it's voluntary, but in some way serve others as a part of me becoming more resilient, serving others in need. Just kind of watch how all this comes together. We can become more and more emotionally resilient. It's a trait of emotional intelligence. It is a trait of a healthy person. And things happen where we don't feel like we're resilient. Things happen where we feel like we don't recover. Things happen where we feel like we've made mistakes, and it's hard to get out of that. And that's where at times we've got to allow for some outside help and some outside professional intervention in our life to help us retool some things so that we can really put all this into practice. There's times that we need that. Resilience. Let's carry this with us into the new year. And just the truth of, I'm becoming a more resilient person. I am courageous, I am brave, and I'm going forward. Despite what's going on around me or what's happened to me, I am a resilient person. And I will be stronger. I'll be more than okay. I'll be stronger. There is hope. There is hope.